Hey, what's going on YouTube? Welcome to Post Cologne. Today I'm going to be unboxing 3 Paris Corner fragrances, including Amir's Voo Elegant. So let's jump into it. Alright, so today we're going to be taking a look at 3 new Paris Corner fragrances that I recently got in from aromaconcepts.com. Links will be down in the description if you decide you want to check any of these out. And I also have a coupon code. Save yourself 10% off your purchase at Aroma Concepts if you decide you want to shop with them. So pretty excited about these. There's a couple in here that I've been really wanting to try out, and now I have them. So let's quit screwing around and let's get into it. All right, so first up from the House of Paris Corner, we're going with the Pandora line, and we're going to check out Boozy Cherry. You can pick this bad boy up for $30 at Aroma Concepts, and I have the Maison Alhambra's Lovely Cherry. Curious to see how this one stacks up, so let's just dive into this, find out. All right, so there we have the box presentation for Boozy Cherry. Take a little cardboard box, not much to it. Name of the fragrance on the front, all the necessaries on the back, so let's see what the bottle looks like. All right, so there we have the bottle for Paris Corner's Boozy Cherry. Not really trying to hide what we're doing here. It looks a lot like the Tom Ford bottle and the Maison Alhambra bottle for that matter. So all in all, pretty straightforward. Cap on this, pretty lightweight plastic, but this is a really heavy bottle. This is quite thick, and the atomizer on this, decent atomizer, will get the job done, but what does this smell like? So right out the gates, just smelling this in the air right now, it smells like cherries. Who would have thought? Has a bit of a sour cherry sort of feel going on to it. There is a bitter almond that's in the air. It has a little bit of booziness that's in the air, but through and through right now, it's all I'm smelling is just kind of a nice sour cherry, black cherry kind of accord going on. So let's get this on paper, see what we're dealing with. Yeah, really nice sour style of cherry. It has a bit of a tartness to it, but it has that cherry sweetness that's coming through. A nice bitter almond that's working its way through. A little bit of rosiness coming from the mid as well. Has that booziness to it. It has kind of like a cherry liqueur, like one of those liquors that you would drink and it would make you sick because it's just so thick and sweet. Has that kind of cherry liqueur kind of feel going on to it, but black cherry, sour cherry, sweet tart kind of mixed with it. That, again, nice bitter almond and some florals from that rose coming through. There is also a little bit of plum coming through, so it has a little bit of additional fruity sweetness that's not the cherry that's coming through. So it does get it a little bit more character, I suppose. It's not just like an overtly cherry kind of vibe going on to this. It has a nice little mix of something a little bit different that's mixing in there. So I do like that kind of added plum note. The sweetness that's coming from the roses is a nice touch as well. Yeah, and as this is opening up a little bit more, there's like a little bit kind of like a balsamic sweetness coming from some balsam that's in there. Little hints of vanilla are starting to come through, but for the most part, it's that sour cherry accord and that bitter almond with that rose note. But overall, this is really nice. This has a little bit more character, I find, than the Maison Alhambra Lovely Cherry. There's a little bit more to this one, I'm finding. Really, really nice. This is a unisex fragrance. We'll have to see how the dry down is in terms of like if this is like leaning feminine or if this is masculine or it just kind of sits right in that middle part. But so far, I'm really digging this one. This has a little bit more added character than the Lovely Cherry. So far, just my initial 5 minutes of smelling this, but let's skip to the dry down, see what we're dealing with. All right, so we are back with the dry down of Pandora Scents Boozy Cherry. It's been just over an hour. Let this settle down, do its own thing. Not a whole lot has changed. It still has that cherry sort of vibe, as you would expect. That black cherry, that kind of mix of the sweet, tart, sour cherry that goes on with it. That bitter almond has dropped back a little bit. It's not as prominent now as it was in the opening. Along with that booziness, that kind of liqueur cherry sort of vibe going on to it has really faded off quite a bit to the background. And a little bit more woods is kind of poked through from the base. So it's not a woody fragrance necessarily, but there are some woods that are poking through, letting that kind of cherry sit on top. Those florals, it still has that kind of rosy sort of vibe going on to it, a little bit of that soft white florals, a little bit of spices kind of poked through just around the edges, just adds a little bit of character to it. But through and through, it's still very much that black cherry, sour cherry with a little bit more woods sitting on top at the base of this fragrance. So quite nice, a really enjoyable cherry style of fragrance. I do think this is a unisex fragrance. I think both males and females can pull this off without a problem. I know a lot of guys out there don't really find cherry fragrances to be masculine necessarily, but I think if you are into a cherry style of fragrance and you're a dude, I think you can pull this off and no one's gonna bat an eye at you, because it does have a little bit of that masculinity to it with those woods that come through and a little bit of those spices. But through and through. I really like this fragrance. It is very similar to the Maison Alhambra's Lovely Cherry, so I'm gonna have to compare these two side by side, kind of see if there's any nuances between the two, and I'll have to test the performance on this and see how it stacks up. So if you want to see a cherry battle, comment down below. Let me know. I'll do a video comparing these two, and we'll have a showdown between these cherry fragrances. But all in all, for 30 bucks, I think this is a really nice fragrance, really well blended, good quality on this. Probably worth checking out. That's Paris Corner's Pandora Scents Boozy Cherry. All right, up next from Paris Corner, we're going with the Ministry of Oud line, and we're going with Oud Satin. Now you can pick this sucker up for $30 at Aroma Concepts, and I have yet to try anything in the Ministry of Oud line. This will be my first experience with that, and I've been pretty tempted. I've been wanting to try these for a bit, and now I got one to try out, so let's dig in, see what we got. All right, so there we have the box presentation for Oud Satin. It's a cardboard box, but it's kind of nice. I like this shimmery gold. It does have a little bit of texture to it and has a little bit of kind of a plasticky feel, not your typical cardboard box, but all in all, nothing too special with this one. So see what the bottle looks like. All right, so there we have the bottle presentation for Ministry of Oud Satin. Nice, thick, heavy bottle, has that nice thick base to it. Pretty sleek, elegant, straightforward. Cap on this, a little bit of weight to it. I'm not sure if that's a little bit of metal in there. Could be some plastic, but has a little bit of weight to it, does not feel super cheap. And the atomizer on this, nice atomizer on this. Will get the job done, but what does this smell like? All right, so like holy smokes, right out the gate. This is just filling up the room real quick. This is a very strong fragrance, and what I'm getting from this is a lot of rose, some oud that's coming through, and there's some additional like benzoin sort of working its way through, maybe some additional florals, but wow, it's just a huge rose bomb in here right now with that oud. So it's a very oud rose style of fragrance, and it is powerful. I don't even know if I had to spray on the test strip, but we're going to. So let's dig in. Yeah, right out the gate, this is hard to put right directly under my nose because this is really blasting off some rose right off the jump here. Has a real kind of powdery texture to it, like almost kind of a thick resinous vibe at the same point, and you are getting that oud, but I'm mostly just getting those two style of roses, like a Turkish rose, a Bulgarian rose. Really coming forward, has that sweetness, has that rosiness to it. This might be a little bit challenging for me personally because it's like a feminine floral style of rose, and like I know that rose is not necessarily like a gendered note necessarily, but this does have that very floral, rosy sort of vibe going on to it. That sweetness, that powderiness that's coming through with that oud, very, very rosy. I'm surprised how powdery this is coming across right now. I wasn't anticipating that kind of powdery texture that's coming through, but it still has that resinous kind of vibe that's working its way through. There is a little bit of additional sweetness coming from the vanilla benzoin combination, I believe. Maybe a little bit from some violet florals, but through and through, this is a oud rose style of fragrance. But the oud that's coming through here is not like a super pungent oud. The rose is kind of dominating more than the oud is. Has that Middle Eastern vibe that's happening with it. But it's not an aggressive oud, which I kind of enjoy. Even though the rose is a little hard for my brain to kind of get around as a fragrance I would wear consistently, the oud not being skanky or aggressive or like overtly like oud forward with rose behind it. I don't know. I'm enjoying the balance is what I'm trying to say. All right, so now this is opening up and it's kind of toning down. Everything is starting to kind of blend together a little bit better. That rose is still there, but it is kind of mixing with that benzoin vanilla and a little bit of that violet. Definitely still has that powdery texture going on to it, but everything is starting to kind of mix and mingle and intertwine with each other, and nothing's too aggressive. Like I said, in the opening, it was just a big floral rosy blast, but now it's starting to settle down. Everything's starting to dance together a little nice. This is a lovely fragrance. Like, it's very well blended at this point now. Yeah, this is interesting for an oud rose fragrance. The additional benzoin vanilla violet that's mixing in there gives it a little bit more character. I was kind of anticipating this to be like, you smelled this a million times in a Middle Eastern fragrance style of oud rose fragrance, but it is different. It has its own character, and I am quite liking this. So let's skip to the dry down and see how this all kind of comes together, and we'll go from there. All right, so we're back with the dry down of Ministry of Oud's Satin Oud. In just over an hour, let this settle down, do its own thing. This is like kind of grown on me in that hour, and it's filled up the room. This is the first and only thing I smelled when I walked back in this room was this fragrance. A very, very strong, potent fragrance. I'm pretty sure this is going to be a beast mode fragrance, but really soft in the dry down. Those rose accords that came out in the opening, they were very aggressive, and not in like a sharp sort of way, but they were just very pungent, very forward. but they've got this nice softness to it, and that texture I was talking about, that powderiness that was there, that's just even softened it a lot further, and there's a sweetness that's coming through that is really quite nice. The oud is still there. This is still very much an oud rose style of fragrance, but the benzoin and vanilla that's kind of worked in here, it's shifted things away from what I was kind of anticipating. In my brain, I was thinking this was going to be kind of like the Lattafa Amethyst. I was kind of thinking that's where this was going to head. I thought this would be kind of a redundant fragrance, but it's taken a totally different direction. For an oud rose fragrance, they're both in the same category, but this one's kind of moved to a softer, gentler, kind of almost more elegant sort of vibe going on to it. And it's quite nice actually. And I'm not a huge fan of rose fragrances, but I don't know, there's something to this one that I'm quite enjoying now in the dry down. It's very nice, soft, has a nice mix of the oud, vanilla, rose. I'm just repeating myself at this point, but I'm kind of taken aback. I'm really enjoying this fragrance, and I didn't think I would with that rose oud fragrance, that combination. So all in all, I am actually pretty impressed on this, and I think this is going to be an absolute beast mode of a fragrance because, like I said, filling up the room right now. So for 30 bucks, the quality on this is very nice, very smooth, very well blended, and I'm quite impressed, Paris Corner. So if you're into oud rose fragrances, this one, you might want to check this one out. That's Paris Corner's Ministry of Oud Satin Oud. All right, last and hopefully not least, we got one from the Emir line, and it's Amir Voo Elegant. Elegante? I don't know, I'm not French. This one I have been wanting to get for quite some time, so I've been anxious to try this out. This is supposed to be a really good clone of Xerjoff Naxos, so we're gonna find out today, aren't we? We're gonna bust this bad boy open, but really excited for this one. I've heard nothing but good things. All right, so there we have the box presentation for Amir's Voo Elegant. Nice shimmery gold going on there, but typical cardboard box for the most part. This got beat up a little bit in transit. UPS really didn't do a good job delivering this last couple hauls here, so shame on you, UPS. So let's see what the bottle looks like. All right, so there we have the bottle presentation for Amir's Voo Elegant. Very nice bottle. It's very elegant, if you will. Nice, heavy, thick, frosted style of glass on this, cap on this. This has a little bit more weight, and this definitely has some metal in it. So this is, of the 3 caps so far, that's definitely the one that has the least cheap sort of feel with that metal into it. And the atomizer, ooh, that's a good atomizer on that one too. So overall, presentation very nice, but what does this smell like? So right off the jump, this actually kind of surprised me. Just smelling this in the air, there's a little bit more freshness to this than I was anticipating. I was expecting a very honeyed tobacco, which it is, but there's like a lavender and some citrus that's in the air right now. So it's got this kind of freshness to it, but you're really getting that honey and that tobacco vibe going on to it. So let's get it on paper, see what we're dealing with. Yeah, really surprising opening actually. I was, again, like I just said, I was expecting this to be a very honeyed tobacco forward opening with some spices, but there is a really nice freshness to this, that citrus, that lavender that's coming through, and you're still getting that kind of thick syrupy honey, a little bit of spice coming through with that tobacco, but a very interesting opening for this. Like the freshness in here is kind of caught me off guard. Nice sort of dusty texture coming through from that tonka that's in the base, so that freshness with a little bit of that dustiness that's coming through with that tobacco and the honey, they're really quite nice. So now as this is opening up a little bit more, those citruses have really faded off into the background, and it's got that lavender still. It's a little touch of lavender, but more the jasmine, the cinnamon that's coming through, mixing with that sort of thick honey tobacco, that red pipe tobacco sort of vibe going on to it. But the jasmine and the cinnamon are kind of still coming forward a little bit. They're not dominant, they're not pushing forward too hard, but they are there. They're starting to unfold a little bit. This is quite nice. I like that kind of floral touch to it, that warm, spicy edge to it. Yeah, that honey note is really, I can almost like sense it starting to kind of thicken up a little bit and come to the forefront to mix with that tobacco a little bit more. The more and more this is opening up, the thicker it kind of starting to feel. But you're still getting that light floral that's in there. You're getting that cinnamon, and everything's kind of still kind of mixing together and playing around, but it's very, very nice. It's very smooth, has like an elegant feel. Even though it has a little bit of that dustiness coming from the tonka, it still has this nice kind of this creamy, smooth, soft sort of feel with that syrupy, sweet honey tobacco. Really, really nice. Yeah, great mix of the spice, the sweetness that's coming through with that tobacco. Really enjoying this one so far. So let's skip to the dry down and see how this kind of unfolds, and we'll go from there. All right, so we're back with the dry down of Paris Corner's Amir Voo Elegant. It's been just over an hour. Let this settle down, do its own thing. Hasn't changed a whole lot. It's still got that honey tobacco sort of vibe going on to it. That initial fresh top that was there with that bergamot, that lavender has completely disappeared, and now it's just that honey, that tobacco, a little bit of that spice that's coming through, adding a little bit of warmth. That dusty tobacco, or the dusty tonka sort of texture working its way through. Still a little bit of that white floral, kind of adding a bit of a green, soft sweetness as well. But through and through, the star of the show is that honeyed red pipe tobacco sort of vibe going on to it. I will say, I thought the honey note was gonna get a lot thicker. As this was opening up, I could feel this getting thick, but it kind of halted partway through and kind of stopped, and it plays really nice with the tobacco. It didn't become like an overly syrupy, sweet, thick style of honey that kind of overpowers some tobacco fragrances sometimes, where it becomes a very, very sweet style of tobacco fragrance. I find it's a nice balance. It's still a sweet tobacco, but it's not that syrupy, cloying sweetness that you find in some other fragrances. It just plays really nice. The two dance together very well, and with the other notes kind of dancing around the edges with that dusty sort of texture to it. Really, really nice tobacco fragrance. This is quite enjoyable. Great quality on this. There's no like screechy edges. There's no like alcohol blast or any sort of like cloying sort of features to this. Just really smooth, well blended honey tobacco style of fragrance. I'm really quite enjoying this one, and I think for $40, I think this was a great pickup from Aroma Concepts. So quite pleased with this one. I can't wait to get this one on skin. It's starting to get a little too warm out here. It's in the spring and it's starting to heat up, so I'm gonna have to test this out pretty quick before it gets too hot, because this will be too much in the high heat. But overall, I am pretty pleased with this one. If you're into kind of honey tobacco style of fragrances, I think this is one you definitely want to get your nose on. That's Paris Corner's Amir Voo Elegant. All right, so there you have it. That's 3 Paris Corner fragrances I recently picked up from Aroma Concepts. And I think I went 3 for 3 on this one. And I will admit, that Satin Oud one, that caught me off guard. I didn't think I was going to enjoy that one as much as I did. And color me surprised to a rose oud fragrance that I'm happen to really enjoy. So I'm gonna get that one on skin, and I'm gonna see how it reacts with my body chemistry here. But I don't know, I really like that one, and I didn't think I'd like a rosy fragrance that much. But all in all, like I said, the Boozy Cherry, really nice cherry fragrance. The Voo Elegant, really nice honey tobacco fragrance. And we had the Satin Oud, which was a bit of a sleeper, and it caught me by surprise. So I am quite happy. I think the quality on all these fragrances was fantastic. I think the price point is fantastic as well. So quite pleased with this haul, but I want to hear from you guys. What's some other Paris Corner fragrances that I need to check out? I need to get in my next haul. Comment down below. I love hearing from you guys. I love getting your recommendations, your different scent profiles, your hidden gems. Appreciate you. And if you enjoyed this video, make sure you hit that like button. Don't forget to subscribe. Thanks so much for watching, and we'll see you all next time.